At sunrise, Elena Voss was on her knees beneath the old brass sign that carried her father's name. The floor under her hands was black with grease. Her silk blouse was stained at the cuffs. A grey bucket sat beside her, half filled with dirty water, while 5 board members watched through the glass wall above the factory floor. No one spoke. The woman who had once refused to enter the production wing without polished shoes was now scrubbing the place everyone else had stopped looking at. 24 hours earlier, Elena had arrived in a black car that looked too clean for the street outside the factory. The Voss manufacturing sign hung over the main gate, faded by rain and years of smoke from the old boilers. Her father had built the company from a single repair shop into the largest employer in the town. By the time Elena inherited it, the factory was already shrinking. She stepped from the car, adjusted the sleeve of her cream blouse, and looked at the loading bay where 2 workers were pushing a crate around a puddle of dark water. "Why is that still there?" she asked. The plant manager, Martin Hale, followed her with a clipboard pressed to his chest. "Maintenance logged it again last week." "Again?" Elena said. "That means someone is not doing their job." Martin looked toward the floor but said nothing. Inside, the air smelled of oil, steel, and wet cardboard. Machines that had once moved with steady rhythm now coughed between shifts. Workers kept their heads down when Elena passed. She thought it was resentment. She did not notice that some of them were tired of being ignored. By noon, the client inspection had gone badly. A packaging line had stopped after grease leaked near the belt. One inspector took photographs. Another placed a red tag on the machine and wrote a note that made Martin's face go pale. Elena stood beside the line, watching workers mop around the leak. "Who cleaned this section last night?" she asked. An older janitor stepped forward. His name tag read Walter. He was thin, with silver hair under a navy cap and hands that looked permanently marked by detergent. "I did," he said.
"This is what we have to do now."
Elena looked at the stained floor, then back at him. "Then why is my biggest client standing in grease?" Walter held the mop handle with both hands. "Because it always starts under the 3rd drain. I filed the report." Several workers stopped moving. Elena heard the pause and mistook it for defiance. "This factory is not failing because of drains," she said. "It is failing because people have become comfortable making excuses." Walter lowered his eyes. "Your father used to check that drain himself." The words landed harder than Elena expected. Not because they were rude, but because they were familiar. Her father had never entered the factory like an owner inspecting property. He had entered it like a man visiting people who trusted him. Elena pushed the memory away. "Martin," she said, without looking at Walter, "remove him from the shift until we finish this inspection." Walter did not argue. He leaned the mop against a column, lifted his bucket, then set it down again when security approached. In the confusion, he walked out without it. That evening, the client sent an email. The subject line was short: "Final safety review, tomorrow morning." If the factory failed again, the contract would be cancelled. Without that contract, payroll would last 6 weeks. Maybe less. The board met in the upstairs conference room while the factory lights flickered below. They spoke in clean sentences about ugly things. Temporary layoffs. Asset sale. Reputation management. Strategic closure. Elena sat at the head of the table beneath a framed photograph of her father shaking hands with the first 20 workers he had hired. In the photograph, his sleeves were rolled up. A board member named Caldwell slid a document toward her. "If the contract fails tomorrow," he said, "we need to announce restructuring before rumors control the story." Elena looked through the glass at the factory floor. The red inspection tag still hung from the line like a wound. "We are not selling my father's factory," she said. Caldwell's voice remained calm. "Then find a miracle before morning." After the meeting, Elena stayed behind. The factory had entered the strange quiet that came after the last shift ended. The machines were still warm. A few yellow work lights glowed over the aisles. Somewhere in the building, water dripped at an uneven pace. She walked downstairs alone. Near the maintenance closet, she saw Walter's bucket. It sat exactly where he had left it, beside the mop, beneath a row of old safety posters curled at the edges. Elena almost walked past it. Then she saw a folded paper tucked under the handle. She bent down and pulled it free. It was a repair slip. Then another. Then photographs, wrinkled from moisture. Each showed the same area of floor near the third drain. A stain widening month by month. A note written in careful block letters, leak spreading under packaging line. Temporary cleaning no longer enough. Needs pipe access before contamination risk. The oldest report was dated 3 years earlier. At the bottom of one page was a note addressed to her father, written in Walter's hand. Mr. Voss, I know you would want to see this before it becomes bigger. Elena stood still in the aisle, holding the paper like it had weight. Her father had been dead for 5 years. She carried the slips upstairs to the archive room. The cabinet smelled of dust and toner. She searched through maintenance approvals, budget revisions, repair requests, and quarterly cost controls until she found the folder marked drainage line, deferred repairs. The first delays had been signed by managers before her time. The most recent one had her signature. She remembered signing it. Not the drain. Not the report. Just the stack. It had been a cost control packet before an investor call. Martin had mentioned maintenance pressure. Caldwell had warned that another capital expense would make the quarter look weak. Elena had signed the delay because the problem sounded small compared with the numbers. Now the small problem had spread across the floor of her father's factory. She sat in the archive room with the repair slips on her lap. For the first time that day, she did not feel angry at the workers. She felt afraid of what her anger had protected. Near midnight, Elena returned to the production wing. 2 mechanics had come in after Martin called them. They stood near the third drain with tools spread across a cloth. A few workers from the night crew lingered nearby, watching without pretending not to. Elena heard one of them speak softly. Her father would have had that cover open the first day. Another answered, her father knew where the bad lights were before we did. No one said it for her benefit. That made it worse. Elena looked at the wall beside the drain. Beneath layers of grime, someone had marked a small white arrow in paint. Under it were the faded letters, Check Monthly, AV. Her father's initials. She touched the wall, and black dust came away on her fingers. Martin approached carefully. We can still prepare the closure statement, he said. In case tomorrow goes badly. Elena looked at the bucket. Then she looked up at the glass conference room where the board had laughed at problems they had never stepped into. Call Caldwell, she said. Tell him to come back. By 5 in the morning, the board had returned in dark coats and polished shoes. They stood above the production floor with coffee cups in hand, watching mechanics loosen the bolts around the drain cover. Caldwell came down the stairs first. Elena, he said, this is not a board-level activity. She removed her blazer and placed it over a railing. No, she said. That was the problem. She rolled up her sleeves, picked up Walter's bucket, and knelt beside the third drain. The workers watched her lower the brush into the black water. No one applauded. No one smiled. Respect did not return that quickly. But no one looked away. The bolts came loose. The mechanics lifted the cover. A sour smell rose from the opening, sharp enough to make Caldwell step back. Inside the blocked line was the truth Walter had been cleaning around for years, old residue, broken sealant, and a slow leak spreading under the packaging area. It had not begun with careless workers. It had begun with a repair delayed so often that everyone had learned to walk around it. Elena scrubbed while the mechanics worked. Her knees hurt. Her blouse darkened with water. The brush slipped twice from her hand. A young worker wordlessly handed it back to her. That small gesture nearly broke her. At 7, Walter returned. Martin had found him at home and brought him in before the client arrived. Walter entered through the side door in a plain jacket, his cap in his hand. He stopped when he saw Elena kneeling beside his bucket. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Elena stood slowly. The floor around her was still wet, but the drain was open. "You were right," she said. Walter looked at the workers, then at the board members behind her. "I wish I hadn't been," he replied. She handed him the folder of repair slips. "I am restoring the maintenance budget today. Executive bonuses are frozen until every safety repair older than 90 days is reviewed. And if you are willing, I would like you to lead that review with Martin." Caldwell shifted behind her. "Elena, that is not a small cost." She turned to him with the same calm voice he had used the night before. "Neither is blindness." When the client inspectors arrived, the factory did not look perfect. One section was still roped off. The floor smelled of bleach and metal. A temporary repair light hung above the open drain. Elena did not pretend otherwise. She walked them to the line herself. She showed them the repair logs, the signed approval, the open drain, and the workers assigned to fix every related fault before production resumed. She did not blame the night crew. She did not blame Walter. She did not blame the age of the building. This was delayed by leadership, she said. Now leadership is correcting it. The inspectors stayed longer than expected. The contract was not renewed that morning. But it was not cancelled either. The client gave them 30 days under strict review. For the first time in months, 30 days felt like a future. By afternoon, the boardroom table was empty. Elena had her father's old wooden office chair carried downstairs and placed near the maintenance station beside the production floor. The leather was cracked. One armrest was worn smooth from years of use. Walter sat in it with the repair log open on his lap. Martin stood beside him with a pen. Workers passed without lowering their eyes. Elena remained standing. Her suit was still stained. Her hand still smelled faintly of bleach. Above her, the glass conference room reflected the factory lights, but she did not look up. She looked at the floor. Not because it was beneath her. Because that was where the truth had been waiting.